Hey everyone, we are back this week, the number one motorsport podcast in the world. Today we have a pretty big guest, Jesse Myers, or as most of you know him, he is the man behind the scenes for the Realistic Derby project. Um, we're super excited to hear more about the project and see what's next for Jesse and the RDP team. I don't know how much you know about myself, but we've been doing the podcast now for, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, I guess, kind of all over the industry, not just derbying, just, snowmobile racing, mud runs, car shows, obviously have dived into some derbying.
Okay.
So kind of got over, trying to get all the people that are kind of in the mainstream of the motorsport industry, and you with your realistic derby project seems to be moving along fairly well. You want to tell me a little bit about your project?
Sure. I'm still figuring out. I have never found the best way to explain what I do to people who don't know, but basically, um BeamNG Drive is a you could call it a game. It's really more of a physics simulator that simulates, they call it soft body physics. Um so you have your cars and they are completely rigged up um to deform, to bend in a realistic manner. And I came across this in, I don't know, 2017, and I discovered that they have a modding scene. They have like all their files are like available to you to open up and look at and add on to. And there's lots of mods, add whatever, you know, different tires, different wheels,
Right.
different, spoilers to their cars, whatever you can think of. And you know, I kind of just thought, well, it would be cool if you could add derby parts to this. And they have lots of stuff. They have actually what I believe you touch on other motorsports. I think that the best monster truck sim is through a mod on BeamNG. I think that had quite a bit of input from actual monster truck guys. There's also a lot of drag racing stuff on there. So um, there's a whole variety of different motorsports that you can do on there. But at the time, I kind of saw it as, hey, wouldn't it be cool if you could just add, bumpers,
Right.
cages to these cars over, I suppose, past 4 years, that's turned into just full on derby cars,
Sure. Sure. So you've been working on
competitions.
this project for 4 years then?
More or less. There was a first attempt at it.
Right.
Um, in maybe 2018, and I had no clue what I was doing, and I dropped it. And back at this time, I was living in Salt Lake City. We were going to the University of Utah. We were pretty poor college students,
Right.
so I really wasn't able to participate in the sport in a way that I wanted to. At some point, I decided to give it another go because I just, I was at home. If I wasn't studying or wasn't working, I was at home.
Sure.
And it really just started as a hobby. And I think 2019 is when I started. December 2019 is when I started releasing, my own content, which was the form of square body Crown Vics.
Sure. Have you been in a derby car yourself?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I just uh I ran around home since 2013. Um and now I'm all the way in New Jersey. I'm from North Dakota. I'm in New Jersey. I've never ran out here or had any desire to run out here. Now all my stuff's in Missouri at a friend's shop. Um and yeah, I run around there now, or at least I will when we get everything going.
Sure. We're at North Dakota.
Little town called Cooperstown, which is like
Yeah.
north of Valley City, Jamestown.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just there a couple weeks ago.
west of Fargo. About 900 people there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I know exactly where that's at. So
Sweet.
I'm from North Dakota, or I'm filming right now in North Dakota. So
Oh, okay, awesome.
yeah.
Usually when people ask me where I'm from, I'm like Cooperstown has about 900 people. Nobody ever knows where Cooperstown is.
Yeah,
It's a
no,
small
I know
town,
where
but
it's at. I just
it's
drove
funny.
through it 2 weeks ago, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's where I used to run.
Oh, what the heck? Okay, I did not know that. Um, so after obviously you started running, then you kind of, are you a gamer? I mean, in a sense.
Yeah, I don't yeah, I mean when I was in Salt Lake City, I had saved up to buy a gaming computer.
Yep.
I would say these days I don't play things for the sake of playing them quite as much.
Sure.
Now a lot of my time is spent, developing. But yeah.
Sure. So yeah, I read kind of your timeline. I think it was from 2022. There's been a lot of improvements, and it seems like you've gained a pretty big following. As far as like, if I wanted to play it, is it like from a laptop, or do I have to have a gaming console, or how do I
You
go
can
about
do,
doing it?
yeah, so it's all on PC and you can do a laptop.
Okay.
It's pretty CPU intensive, which your two main components of computer are going to be your CPU, which basically does your math, then your
Sure.
GPU, which is renders your graphics. Because it's a physics simulator, it's pretty CPU intensive, and then for it to run, the AI for your cars to be controlled by computers to run against that. That's also
Sure.
um, CPU intensive. So what you pay for is kind of what you get. If some people they get $800 computers and they're able to run, but you're probably not going to be able. The nicer computer you get, the more cars you can run
Sure.
against is what I'm getting at. So um, it kind of depends on what you want. But yeah, lots of people playing on laptops. The way that we do shows actually, it's not true multiplayer. It's people connect to a single computer and it's run as if you're all playing locally.
Oh, okay.
So you can actually do that from just about any computer because it's all the work's being handled by one person's computer. So
Sure.
technically, if you want to, almost any computer can run shows. Um, but yeah, if you just want to play yourself, I have a PC buying guide up
Okay.
somewhere.
Sure. So can you go on and play at any time, or do you just hold like certain events,
You
or
can if you want to play against computers at that's single player anytime.
sure.
If you want to play against others, you kind of like I said, there's a host, so it's all on. So if I'm hosting, it's all running off my computer. So people need to find someone who is hosting. Pretty much every night there's someone, or
Sure.
people will find their group of friends that they like to talk with at night. And
Sure.
then pretty much any weekend there will be money shows, which is just like entry fee, and then those get paid back out.
Sure. How does that get paid out? I mean, is that through the game, or is that just between friends?
That's through most people use PayPal. I
Okay.
guess with the new PayPal rules, some people are doing it different now, but yeah.
Sure. That's pretty neat. Well, I see the last two cars, the most recent ones you uploaded were North Dakota cars.
Yeah. Yeah, we did Shay
Mike.
and Mike Schmidt.
Sure.
Yeah, we so I try to do represent people who are known for those cars.
Right.
And we had a lot of discussion about who's known for Buicks. Um and it's just like pretty hard to deny what CPI had done in Topeka in the past few years with their GMs.
Right.
I mean, I think looking at them, they're just hands down the best guys in those sedans.
There's some of the cleanest builds, especially at that level.
Yep,
They're super clean builds.
yep. I always like watching the North Dakota guys come out whenever they get to travel. I feel like I feel like a lot of those guys are overlooked.
Yeah.
I feel like they just go anywhere and take everyone's money.
Yeah.
I mean, Utah got pretty sick of it, I think.
Right.
When I was living out in Utah, I kept seeing these North Dakota guys come out and win all the shows.
All right.
Uh,
Well, Shay and Dookie, they traveled
yeah,
up there quite a few times.
yeah, I think Ponzer went out there and might have taken some money at May Mania one year.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
So I assume you ran with most of those guys when you're out in Cooperstown. I shouldn't say with,
No,
but knew
I
most of
always
them.
ran local, just my hometown show. It was never like
Okay.
a big, I never traveled really until I started running with my buddy in Missouri.
Sure.
It just wasn't something that was in my scope. And I've never been around the sport. My dad never did it. For
Okay.
whatever reason, one summer I was just like, I'm gonna do this. I had no clue about cars really. I didn't know anything about the engines. I didn't know anything about, the difference between a
Right.
Mopar and a GM for derby purposes. That was all completely beyond me.
Right.
Uh, so a lot of, you know, RDP has really driven me to learn a lot about the sport.
Yeah. I mean, what you done is pretty sweet. I know a handful of people that, play the game, and then I know a handful of people whose kids play it. So it's cool to see. And then you had a team down at Blizzard Bash with your name or with RDP's name
Yep,
all over the cars, which is, that's pretty big too.
yep, that was awesome. I was really happy about that. Yeah, I never
Obviously
thought
tough
that
luck,
was
but
something that I would reach.
right, right. Yeah, I mean I think it's reached the masses. I mean, obviously it can get bigger, and I
Yeah,
think it will.
a lot
And
of the guys that are playing too. There are a lot of guys that used to run maybe in the 90s or something, and whether it's because they got older or because the sport's gotten more expensive, they're not able to be in it anymore. And,
sure,
it's just another way to keep people involved with the sport. There's lots of guys who don't derby at all. And, I think in the sport, there's kind of like a negative stigma around guys who don't actually run.
right,
Um, but I think it really gets a lot of people involved in the sport that otherwise maybe would have, let it go.
sure. How do you stay in tune with all the new updates? Because I don't know, and I don't mean updates as far as like PCs and technology, but updates as far as like new components. NLR's coming out with new stuff all the time. You got, Jeffy's
Mhm.
Fab Farm, all those guys, anyone who's building parts, they're always got something new to the market. How do you
Yeah.
keep up with that?
So sponsor parts are on a kind of like a customer basis.
Sure.
Anyone can come to me, as long as they're selling it. I don't take like requests for things that they're not selling, but as long as they're selling it, you know, they can say, "Hey, this is my product," and I don't charge that much. I really think, I mean, I have a pretty long list of stuff that I gotta do now, but I really believe that if you have a part that people don't know about,
Sure.
I mean, if you get in RDP, right there, you have tons of people who know about it, can literally see it in action.
Right.
I really believe I've had people ask me to be sponsors for events to have like, logo on a banner
Sure.
for literally like 5 times what I would charge for a sponsor part. I'm like, nobody's nobody's looking at a logo on a banner and is like, I gotta buy that.
Right.
Um, So yeah, it's what they want. I've had some of the bigger guys actually tell me I already have as much work as I can take. I don't want any advertisement, which is totally fine. But then I've had other people be like, "Hey, I'm trying to get into selling, whatever part.
Sure.
Let's get it out there." I actually have a few that are from guys who are just starting with parts.
Okay. So as far as arenas, do you have to I mean, what do you do for arenas? I've never played the game, so I'm gonna ask kind of all the dumb
That's fine.
questions.
Uh, Anyone can make them. There's a lot of assets in the game.
Right.
Um, so some guys can take the assets that are in the game and they can create a track out of that.
Okay.
Mine, I totally model them. I model them and texture them myself. The most recent one that I did was based off of a Utah track. And then the next one will probably be some variation of some indoor track. Yeah, there are some guys who actually spend quite a bit of time doing that kind of stuff because it gets old, looking at the same track all the time.
Right, right. So, do you know how many users in total use the platform or not
Yeah,
really?
yeah. Right now, I mean, a lot of them probably aren't actively playing.
Right.
But there's about a little over this winter we passed like 1,500
Okay.
active players, and then lifetime has probably been like 3 or 4 thousand, and some of those guys come and go.
Right. But that's pretty neat. What's the ultimate goal behind it? I mean, bigger, better.
Yeah, the goal kind of changes.
Sure.
My goal, like the big goal, has always been I want to make every car from every notable platform in the sport,
Sure.
and we're still a pretty long ways away from that. My current kind of short-term goal is I just want more variation on the track,
Sure.
because right now you play and there's so many Vics and Deuces and Buicks,
Right.
or I mean, and Oldsmobiles. After a while, it gets a little. I personally get a little sick of looking at them. So I really want to just get more vehicles out and raise the variety on the track.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, I constantly have a list of things I want to do. I want to completely overhaul engines. That's like on my short list.
Okay.
Um,
Neat.
I've been redoing a lot of stuff
Sure.
because my quality of work has really gone up. Last year was a lot of it was spent completely redoing old cars.
Okay. So do you ever would you like to ever see it like mainstream as far as I
I don't
don't
think
know,
that's possible.
not possible?
I mean, a lot of people ask like, will this ever be on console or whatever?
Yeah,
I mean, first of all, it's all piggybacking off of BeamNG,
sure,
and they've been in development for like 15 years. They're just constantly adding on to it.
sure,
I can't just take what they have, even if they wanted to put it on a console, which they have said. I mean, things change, but they have said in the past that they have no intention of ever bringing it to a console, and it's debatable if consoles are even powerful enough to run it. The newer ones probably are, but
sure,
even if they could, I think there's still hurdles. The consoles don't really allow you. My understanding is that console mods can't add content; it can only modify existing content or something like that.
sure.
Um, and then surely automakers would have a problem with it at some point. Some
Right,
people are like, "Oh, why don't you make your own game?" There's no way that Ford, GM, Chrysler would allow someone to license mass production
right,
of destroying their cars, their classic cars.
right, right. That makes sense. Okay. I mean, is there a I mean, is there ever a goal for you or is there ever a thought to like make money off of it? Um,
I mean, I do.
maybe not livable income, but
It's my full time job.
it is your full-time job.
Yeah, yeah. I do pretty good on it. I mean, I'm still stuck in New Jersey, so it doesn't. I don't feel like I do that good on it all the time. But
Sure.
yeah, I did get a degree in biology, and the goal with that was always something like conservation biology. Working outside with wildlife or something like that.
Sure.
And when the pandemic hit, here in New Jersey, pretty much everything completely shut down. I
Okay.
mean, my jobs that I had been working at didn't reopen for at least 6 months. And that is when RDP took off because people were stuck inside, and that entire summer of motorsports was completely shut down because for insurance reasons and all that.
Right.
Um and
Is there many derbies around New Jersey?
There's a few. I didn't know of any before I moved here, but I came out here and I actually reached out to Decker and I said, "Hey, is there anyone in the area that
Right.
I can like get in touch with?" And he pointed me to Keno and he's about a an hour drive away. But every
Okay.
now and then I head out there. We've worked on a few cars together. Brought a we brought a car to Keystone Nationals in 2021, I think.
Okay.
Uh, we worked on a Bash for Cash car. Uh, and there's a few smallish local shows. There's not many.
Sure. So I guess as far as this platform, from the podcast standpoint, is there any way we can help you, or is it just getting it out to more people to see, the work you've done? Obviously you've got a lot of time involved and just getting more users on the platform. I
Yeah,
mean, can the platform only handle so many at a time, or is it kind of unlimited?
no, it can get as big as it can get.
Right.
I think the main thing that I've learned, going to derbies is, I feel like most people know who I am in the sport, but then I go to derbies and I realize, oh, a lot of people aren't on Facebook or they gave up Facebook or whatever. And I talk to people and they're like, oh, I've kind of heard about it, but I don't really know that much about it.
Sure.
So I think, you know, we've tossed around the idea before of having like a van with, a setup out the back where I can bring it to derbies and people can come play out the back of the van. But ultimately, I think I came to the conclusion I just end up being like a babysitter and people just send their kids to me,
Right.
which is fine. I'm just not going to travel from New Jersey to Ohio or whatever to watch after kids.
Right. 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 It's a good idea though. I mean, it would get more involvement and maybe spark interest and more to start playing it.
Yeah, yeah. I think probably getting people's hands actually on it is like uh, the best way to sell people on it.
Sure.
But yeah, maybe I don't know. Maybe if I had someone like in the middle of the Midwest that was able to help me travel with a van like that. But
Right.
yeah, we've considered it.
Oh, what the heck? So, do you have any plans to have more teams? I mean, sponsored teams like you did?
I actually have a sponsored team, a compact team, going to Spring X.
Okay.
And then, I told Dalen and Cody, I loved having them as a team. I mean, just from a fan standpoint, it was awesome seeing them out there. And
Yeah.
from uh from a sponsor standpoint, I mean that there was so much discussion around them and what happened to them. And, they had such a tough weekend out there, but they still put on a show.
Right.
And I told them that, if they go back, I'll gladly sponsor them again. Um, I think three of the teammates were kind of done in by the whole experience out there, and they do, and at least at the moment now, they don't really want to go back. I mean, I don't want to speak for all of them. I don't even know two of them very well.
Sure.
Um, and then Dalen, I think he has plans for something else that probably won't allow me to be um, the full sponsor, but
Sure.
they know that if they ever want to do that again, that I'd be willing to do it.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, they had one of the most controversial teams down there by far, especially in the
Hmm.
feature. I
Yeah,
mean, there wasn't too many people that weren't talking about it.
yeah. I mean, that whole weekend was just from day zero to the end,
Were you
just
there?
like a test. I mean, if you've never been out, or if anyone listening's never been out in the pits at Blizzard Bash, seeing what those guys are doing, I mean, it's
Treacherous.
rough.
Yeah,
It's
especially in those national qualifying. I mean, they got
it's no
quadruple the work.
sleep. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's stressful. You have to make time deadlines. One of the cars, the wagon on the team, he broke a steering box.
Sure.
Then he came out and he was like, "Hey, let's get your cars done." And he helped Cody and Dalen on their cars. And then he went to replace steering box, and steering box replacement only, I think it only steered right.
Oh,
So, they had to have the cars in the impound barn at 4 o'clock. He fires it up and he can only turn right, and he has to fight through a crowd, and he shows up at the barn at 4:01. And when he drove back, I mean, I think that hurt, you know,
right,
all that work that they had put in just for 1 minute to not be enough.
right, right, right. Yeah, that stinks. I
It's a
know,
lot mentally.
right, because you just physically drained yourself, and then for something
Yeah.
like that, it's a mental stressor too,
Mm.
for sure. Yeah, and well, you're from the Midwest, so I'm sure you've heard about Sam's stuff that's going on right south of us here. Gold
Hmm.
Rush.
Yep. I believe, I don't know if he said it publicly, but I believe one of the drivers is going to be on a team out there. Uh,
Okay,
so
okay, cool.
I'm pretty excited about that.
Will you be there? Or will you
I
be there
haven't
for?
decided yet. I mean,
Yeah,
I got to fly either way, so like the distance isn't that big of a deal.
sure.
Um,
Yeah.
I might see like what it's like the first year and then decide. I feel like that whole month. I mean, obviously they're in direct contention with Blizzard Bash. I
Right.
don't think Blizzard Bash is as done as some people say.
I think it's going to open the door for a lot of new drivers, which may be good for them.
You know, they've had trouble filling qualifying brackets in the past few years. I I kind of think that if they have a hard time filling, or if they have a hard time putting on a show this year, they should maybe shift things so that the limited weld rules are the main class, because
Yeah.
I think most people feel like they can build those limited weld cars. Maybe they can't all compete at the top, but most people can afford to build with
Right.
their setup with the limited weld rules. Whereas I think a lot of guys are just like, I just can't afford to run national bracket.
Right. Well, right. I mean, they got 50K in their cars,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
probably on the light end.
I know that I mean, I know they are going to do whatever they're going to do, but I really think that opening up the doors to new drivers is really going to be something that they need to do if they can't fill the brackets this year.
And some of the drivers are just at the point in their life where they're mid
Yeah, they've done
40s,
that
50s.
bracket
I
how
mean,
many
they're
times? They don't really want
right.
to. Yeah, there was a lot of rumors of guys who of that being their last year out there last year. Which that was just hearsay, but
Right.
I would be surprised if a lot of them were just over it. I mean, it's just a huge dedication.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, it is.
I don't know how many times in a row you can really do it before you decide maybe time for a break.
Right. Right. Well, it's with the cost of everything now too, just to haul a car there is twice
Mm-hmm.
as what it used to be. So
Mm-hmm. I've asked some of those guys what they paid in like cage material in the past couple of years, and I mean that alone is in the thousands.
right. Yeah. It's crazy. I do. I'll bring up one comment from the co-host. He wanted to bring it up, but like I
Mm-hmm.
said, he had to hop off. He wanted to give you crap about Shea Bob and Mike Schmidt's cars that you just had put on your game. Because I don't know if you know Nevada, probably not. Or maybe you do. I don't know. He's a graphic designer, and he was the one that designed the wraps on their cars. I don't know. I haven't looked at them, but he said that it says Black Flag on the corner of one of them.
Yeah, so Corey does all my graphic work.
Sure.
This was actually a topic that we kind of settled with. We were good friends with George High Note.
Sure.
And we've all come together and kind of talked about what is like fair use for wraps and signs. And basically
Right.
we've come to the agreement that you can't use other people's wraps without their permission. And we haven't. I mean, we can talk to them if they actually have an issue with it, which is fine if they do. but Corey does my designs.
Right.
So we could go out and ask everyone for permission for the
Right.
wraps, but we haven't had any issue with just approaching it as recreating their general style.
Right. Right.
Um, and if they think that we shouldn't do that, I'd have no problem talking to them about that.
Yeah. No, he wasn't mad. He said he didn't care. He just wanted to kind of give you crap about it.
Yeah, I mean, we can't just rip, their
Right.
actual wraps. Some people literally do, graphic designers will send proofs of their roof signs and there used to be a thing where people would just steal roof signs and or wraps and then sell them because people will like charge for their time to make paint designs on cars.
Right.
And then we've had to approach them like, hey, this is other people's work.
Right.
You can't do that. Like you can make your own wraps and roof signs, and most people, aren't good enough with Photoshop to be able to do that. But you make your own wraps and roof signs, but you can't use my literal design.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, he didn't care. He was just wanted to give you crap about it since he's gonna be on, but
I
yeah.
understand.
He couldn't get on. But yeah, I just figured I'd bring it up for him so he can have a good laugh later.
What's his actual business name?
22 GFX.
Okay. Okay.
Nope.
Yep.
Yeah, so I would say probably 70% of the Midwest uses him. Anyways, in our area, between like
Mhm.
North Dakota, Montana, South Dakota, he's
Yeah.
get gets used pretty heavily.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. When I was out there, I'd always gone through Corey. Corey was actually, we talked about when we were getting started in like 2019.
Mhm.
Black Flag Designs, they reached out to me, before I was ever charging anything for this back when,
Sure.
back before anyone knew who I was, they kind of reached out to me. They're like, hey, how can I help?
Right.
And they've just been, really good to me ever since then. Anytime I need, posters or anything, Corey's been there for me. So
Sure.
yeah, that's always who I've had do do my signs and everything.
Sure. Do you
And
have
I know there's a ton of graphic designers out there.
they're all over now. There's like those select few that are the OGs of the sport, but yeah,
Yeah, there's
there's a
actually
lot of
quite a
them.
few who have come out designing their own stuff because they started making wraps on RDP. Sean Elliott, I know this winter had a full fleet of cars out of their shop that had his work on it.
Sure.
Um, so that's really cool.
Right.
Uh, because local guys should support local guys. I've always felt like.
No, I'm yeah, I mean, I'm in the same business for that. So I totally believe that. Try to help out the, small businesses and the guys around you as much as possible.
Hmm.
So I know for we run, so aside from the podcast, we're the promoters for North Dakota. So we have 8 shows across North Dakota.
We're at
Tappan, Beulah, New Salem,
okay.
Mandan, Dickinson, Tioga, kind of all over. So
How long have you had Mandan?
this be our second year.
Okay, okay.
Yep. So we're fairly new, I guess you could say, on the promoting side. This is our third year, but we just don't do derbying. We do other events. Like I was saying earlier, that's kind of why we talk about all sorts of events or
Hmm.
motorsports, but we have car shows and mud runs and snowmobile drag races. So, this year is one of our bigger years. I think we have 12 events basically from the start of June or end of May, start of June until October. So pretty much
It's
every
funny that you
weekend.
brought up mud runs because um, I could definitely tell in the past like 5 years around my hometown, guys are like way more into the mud runs than derbying.
It's
At some
gotten
point,
big.
we kind of had to fight with I heard that they kind of had to fight with the fair board to not get rid of the derby in favor of just mud runs.
Yeah, it's gotten big around here for sure. Just a small town right next, close to where I live. They started the mud runs. Oh, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and they get a pretty solid 50 to 60 trucks every time, every event.
Yeah, it's
Sometimes you
way
can't
lower
say that for a
barrier of
derby.
entry.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's here, maybe here to stay. I don't know. The the drivers are going down because there's not as many getting into the sport, but yet I don't know. It
Do you
kind
get a
of
lot
like
of
where
guys
you came
traveling
from,
for that?
you just hopped into it. There's not a lot of people that are just gonna hop into it anymore without maybe
Right.
a little help or just because of the cost of things.
Yeah. Um, I mean, it is pretty rare these days, I feel like, to see people jump into the sport that weren't in like a derby family.
Right. For sure.
And obviously just the county fair scene in general is just like secondary to big shows.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
but you also don't, lose your equipment when you go do a to a mud run.
Right.
So
Right.
I get it.
For sure. Well, as far as your RDP logo, is it possible you could send me that, or can I rob it off Facebook or something to use for a thumbnail
Yeah,
for this video? Is
yeah,
that
I
okay?
can do either one. I have an isolated uh
Nice.
PNG somewhere, I'm sure.
Sure, sure. I mean, that's all I got for you. I don't know if you have anything for me.
Um, Not really.
Perfect. Well, I do appreciate you hopping on.
I'm
Okay,
sure we'll come across somewhere at some show.
sure.
Especially you'll surely go to Gold Rush, yeah.
Yeah, I was at Blizzard. I mean, I've gone to Blizzard Bash for the last like 7 years in a row. I've
Hmm.
ran Winter Slam. I ran the Las Vegas shows. So I've kind of gone all over running myself and also watching. So
Oh,
I
you ran the Vegas shows?
yep. Yep. So I've put in some seat time and put in some just visiting time, I guess. The
Do
last few
you?
years of Blizzard Bash have just been watching, I don't know. Tori and Mike's team, maybe 4 years ago, 2 or 3 years in a row, I helped them pit. If you were there at Blizzard Bash,
Yeah.
that's a long weekend. I don't care if you're the driver, the pit man, the wives. It's a long weekend and it's a lot of work. So the last couple of years, we kind of took a break from that, and
Hmm.
I just watched them and drank beer instead of helped in the pits.
Are you hoping to be able to go to both Blizzard Bash and South Dakota, or
I don't know. I did that a couple
it's
years ago.
stressful that it's like back to back?
Yeah, that's how Blizzard Bash in Vegas was, and we did that, and that was super.
Was that late in the year?
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, it was Blizzard Bash. Whatever the second weekend, and then the third weekend in November was Vegas. So it was kind of a stressful couple weeks, and a
Yeah,
lot of
that
driving.
Vegas show was really, I think when you look back on the past like 5 years, that's like one show that really stands out.
Right.
I just really loved the diversity of cars out there and everything. It was just such a unique show.
Yeah. On the
Uh,
location alone, it's hard to
yeah,
beat.
yeah.
To
I
beat.
hope they can do something. I mean, at the time when they had that, there was all the word about how they wanted more out there.
Right.
Obviously that hasn't happened, but I know there are guys who wanted to be down there and want another chance to run there.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't say for sure, but I do think there's going to be some news in the upcoming future about it.
Hmm.
Hopefully sooner than later. But I think people may get a chance to relive that dream again.
That'd be awesome. That was such a good show.
Yeah. I think in a even better venue though this time down there.
Yeah. I really try to model, our events
Mhm.
after those. I mean, I know it's in Vegas, but those Utah style shows, those, they keep everything within a pretty tight window.
Sure.
Everything's, the open tracks, the fast pace. I've actually heard from Utah guys in the past few years that they're not very happy with the way the shows have been going out there lately.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved my time out in Utah watching those shows. I really miss watching those shows, and um, yeah, there's just nothing like being out in Utah and I assume out in Vegas.
Right. Yeah, we just flew down to Utah, it was a month ago, me and my co-host, and we did some podcasts with the Gladiators of Steel crew. So
Yeah, that's just wild. The production looks awesome.
mhm. Yeah.
Um,
Sounds like more to come possibly. So
yeah, I hope. I mean, have you ever talked to people outside the sport? I mean, they just have no clue what we do
no.
anymore. They most people just think, I mean, if they do know about the sport, they think it's like it was in the 90s.
Yeah, for sure.
So, if they can somehow get eyes on what they're doing, I think it'd be really awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I'm sure it'll never change what most people think, but
Right. Right. Cool. Well, I do appreciate you and your time. And like I said, I hope we meet up here in the near future.
absolutely. Let me know what show you plan on going to.
Will do. Will do. Well, you take it easy and thanks again.
Thank you.